What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I finally get to say what I think about Suicide Squad from the closed tech test, right? A lot to say, and I mean, I want to start off by saying, like, good on them. Honestly, you can have whatever opinion on this game that you want, and I've always said that, and I do think that's made me a little different from other people online that have kind of just, picked their side and not welcoming of anybody from the other side. You can have whatever thought on this game you want on this channel, and I want to hear, definitely, this isn't just about me. Let me hear it. Let me have it, actually. Go in the comments and you tell me what you thought about this tech test as well, okay? But we finally get to say it, and honestly, props to them because they did not have to do this, right? This was the right move. This was the obvious move, but you didn't have to do it. You could have continued just the silence, and I don't think that would have been amazing or good or anything like that, but you could have done it. So good on them, and now we get to speak on it. So, all right, what did I think of this thing? I overall thought it was pretty darn solid, and I'm gonna try to explain it, like, specifics, so that I'm not just giving kind of generalized statements. The story really impressed me. Really impressed me. I didn't think we would get as much as we actually did in this, tech test. So, the actual content, and you could have kept playing it, and there was kind of leeway to take some time in it, but it was about 2.5 hours, 2 hours or so of like full-on story content. This was the beginning of the game, so I was honestly shocked about that. I didn't think they would do that. I thought we'd kind of be like plopped in maybe midway through or a quarter of the way through, and I thought it would be a more of an emphasis on the open world, going around doing these different objectives, really getting a feel. And that was in there, right? The idea of, okay, well, can we actually feel these characters? Can we move around with them? Can we shoot with them, right? Can we kind of understand which is which? We got that. But we got that heavily through story, which I did not expect that whatsoever. So, it's why I've tried to be kind of cryptic with, my thoughts on this game without saying, the closed tech test. I like the story, like, actually quite a bit. I was a fan of it. I think what we saw so far, I think the squad works well with each other. So, it's why I kept saying, story-wise, I'm still invested. I'm still excited. I want to see what they can do with it. And I'm going to keep saying that, even in future videos. That is the main thing. And the tech test actually made me more confident. Now, that came out in the midst of all these leaks, right? Like, all of it, and all this divisiveness on the game. And so, as we've said 1,000 times, or as I've said, I stayed away from it mostly. So I really didn't know, if they ruin the characters or ruin the story or whatever, maybe that still happens, maybe that doesn't happen, right? A lot of it's been debunked, but I don't know, what the new stuff is. What I saw, the quality level, whether it's the cinematics or, literally anything, the dialogue's actually pretty good. The story so far is actually pretty good. The Suicide Squad is good. The Justice League is good, right? You get a little bit of Batman. You get a little bit of Flash. You get a little bit of Wonder Woman. And I think all of them, and plus more. But it's a really good job. I think they did a really good job there. So from the story and just the narrative, dialogue, all that kind of interaction, I think they nailed it. I think they did a really, really good job. And I was impressed. I think that's what I would actually say. I was impressed with what I got, and it reminded me of Rocksteady. I thought, okay, because the rest of it, I'll get into my opinion of it. The rest of it isn't what we're used to with Rocksteady, right? Love it or hate it. That's not what we had seen from Rocksteady. So you go into that a little bit more skeptical or whatever. Then the story and characters, though, there's a bar there. There's an expectation. And so far, they hit it. They actually hit it. So I'm really pleased to say that, and I can finally freaking say it. Okay, but what did I think about the gameplay? Much more mixed. I gotta be real. Gotta be honest. Much more mixed. So here's what I'll say. The traversal, getting from point A to point B, okay? I would actually echo almost everybody online. Harley, for whatever reason, just is not very good. They need to add... So all of it's like momentum-based, basically, right? There's a lot of... You need to chain things together, but there are like cooldowns, and you have to, time it out right in order to kind of chain and swing things together. So Harley literally swings, whereas other characters, have different things. I think for me, like Deadshot was really, really fun. He was probably the most fun to like move around in combat with, but the rest, like all three of them, I actually think are really, really good movement-wise. Harley, there's moments of that, but there's also moments where even if you're chaining it together, the cooldowns just kind of stop you from making it feel good. I'm sure it probably can. Like if they tweak it, if they adjust it, I think you probably can make it feel good. I would say movement actually surprised me, though, in the sense that besides Harley, I really liked it. And I was like, ooh, I didn't really know. You watch the gameplay. And I mean, we've been watching it for years. We've been seeing it for years, right? And, there's only so much you can get out from it. You can see it, but you can't, there's a difference. There's a difference between actually controlling it and is there like a satisfaction there? You don't know until you actually play it. And again, I'm pleased to report, at least from my perspective, I actually had a lot of fun moving around in the world. I think they actually did a really good job. And they very much made these characters, different from each other. All right. But then the actual combat, that is the weak part. Now, what I'll say is, as the demo or what tech test, as it went on, and as you start to kind of buff up a little bit, because it's a lot of it's a tutorial, right? They're teaching you the characters. You have like a segment where you have to get from point A to point B and chain things together with each of them. You have moments where you have to defend something or do an objective with each of them. It's a slow burn. So, and again, it seems like it's the beginning of the game. At least definitely parts of it are the beginning of the game. So can I imagine it getting better as the game goes on? Yes. And I mean, what did those content creators and even journalists, what did everybody, was saying? A big part of this game is the build, is how you make these characters, right? And I can see the potential there. Did I actually play it? I played something that I thought was serviceable. And I mean, I haven't been able to like actually say that, right? If I was only able to say such a short thing about the tech test, right? And now that the NDA is lifted, we can go into more detail. But if I were to keep it in like a summary form, they nailed it with the story and characters so far. They nailed it, I actually say, with movement. They did a really good job. The gameplay was serviceable for what I played, but I do think it's going to get old quickly. That would have been my Spark Notes. That would have been my short, end of what I wanted to say, because that's literally how I feel. I think there is something there, but I can see the looter-shooter-esque thing, the idea that, well, is it really all that special? Are any of these characters all that special? And the answer is, well, they definitely, in terms of like the finishing moves and stuff, they can make these characters feel different. And one thing that is highlighted when you play it is, unless you just stand there and shoot, which I guess you could, but you really should be moving around, right, during the combat. That's where you feel like your character the most. Not in what you're shooting. I mean, like, yeah, each character is a little bit, and they try. Like, Captain Boomerang definitely does move around differently, than other characters. And, like, King Shark has a different weapon than a Deadshot, etc. But it's definitely not enough to make me, like, ooh and ah. Like, I would never highlight the gameplay, the actual shooting element of this game. I would never highlight it as a strength. And I want to make this clear. It wasn't terrible. Because, and I want to say this too, all of these games, like the kind of style and genre of this, what this game is, I've always kind of felt that about these games. I think they're serviceable when I play them, but there's just not enough to capture my individual attention, like my specific, I guess, attention. And that's what I've been hinting at. True, like I've really tried my best, but I've been hinting at that through all these videos where I truly understand the people that say they like it, because there are many games like this, and maybe that's a negative, right? Because it feels this kind of generic looter shooter-esque thing. There are some, unique elements that, considering it's a Suicide Squad, and again, they're all going to act a little bit different. There is some, originality, but you have played these kind of shooting things before, and that's why I've always thought, well, it's serviceable for me. It's going to get me through the game. I'm going to, tolerate it, or maybe even have fun, but not have too much fun. At least right now, that's how I think. Maybe I will have a lot of fun and get through the game. Other people might legitimately spend weeks or months of their lives playing this game because there's a grind there and there's a repetitiveness in a good, like, the idea is you're supposed to play this a lot, right? They want you to. And that's probably not going to get me. Got to be real. It is going to get other people, though. And I can absolutely see it. To me, it's nothing to write home about, but actually, everything around it was surprisingly good. Now, I do want to say this. This is actually what I want to close on. One pretty big worry that I have, and I got to be careful here, right? Because, all right, in the closed tech test, you really could, but you couldn't go out and explore and go off the beaten path, okay? There are some opportunities, and when there were, I did. And this is, remember in the beginning of the video, I said, okay, I thought this tech test was going to be more about exploration. They drop you in, you don't even do main story stuff, right? You drop in and you just go around and you experience kind of side content. That's what I thought we were going to get. Now, as the tech test goes, there's a lot of story, a lot of specific missions. Actually, a lot of it you're not even outside for. Once it gets to outside and you're somewhat free to explore, I thought, okay, this is where they're going to cut us off and we can just explore. No more story stuff. They're just going to let us. And again, there are times where you kind of can, and there's nothing to do. There's nothing in terms of like these side objectives to do. Now, where am I going with this? In the previews, one thing that I noticed, and I don't know who said it. Could have been like an IGN or GameSpot. You know, I try to read as many of these as I could. And you know how I think about gaming journalists, but there was one thing that stuck out. People were talking about the lifeless open world, that there was a lot of points in the demo or whatever that they were able to play. There were a lot of times of just like dead periods. The enemies would take a while to respawn, and you just kind of sit there and wait for it to happen. There'd be pockets of the world, nothing. You go through, and it's just kind of empty or lifeless. I saw that in the tech test. Now, I wasn't going to emphasize it, and this is why I want to be very specific and careful with what I'm saying here. If it was only in the tech test, can you speak about it? Well, it's probably not the greatest indicator of what's in the game. You don't know what they took out of the tech test, right? So me saying that there was very little, like I would agree with the journalists or whoever said it. I'd agree based off what I played. If it was just me saying it, you could say, well, Alex, the base game is going to be different. But they got to play a game the build was 1 month ago. The game comes out in like 3 weeks. So I do think a potential issue with this game is going to be this dead noise, this dead periods of time, whether it's enemies, whether they're just pockets of the world, where just nothing's happening. It just feels kind of empty. That is something I'm getting worried about because I noticed it, and then now they're saying it. And, two different kind of styles or two different kind of like areas that we played, right? So I want to throw that out because I felt that was kind of unique to what I felt about the closed tech test, but then also was, echoed in these previews. So overall, I got to be real. I think I would probably say I was impressed by it in the sense that I didn't know if we were going to get Rocksteady quality story. And so far we did. So I was impressed there or break even, right? Because you kind of fulfilled my expectations. The movement, I thought, you never know. You really don't know. And honestly, I probably thought, less of it. So once I played, I thought, okay, this is actually really good. So that's a good thing. I would say they made a mark on me there. The gameplay was, at times actually better than I thought, and then at times, just as much as I thought it was going to be. And, I've tried to stay generally neutral on this stuff, but I have been real, and I've also been real to myself, right, of the kind of games that I appreciate or I like or I play. Like, generally I play. So I think for that, it was about average. It was about literally what I expected from it. So I don't know. I mean, I've been saying it for a while without even being held back from NDAs, and I'm going to stand, firm on it. I'm playing this for the story. And if the gameplay can keep me invested for it, I need that. Like that's all I actually need, because after that, this is not a game. It is a game to some people that'll play it for months and months and months. For me, I really don't see it happening, and I'm not mad about that. I've accepted. Like, now you could argue maybe, like, is that a negative aspect of the game itself? You could argue, but I'm not really upset. I'm gonna play it. I'm doing it for a specific reason, for the story. Once I'm done, I will go back when they add characters and stuff, but I'm not gonna sit here and play this for 3, 4, 5 months. It doesn't feel like my kind of game from that perspective. Maybe that changes, but that's how I feel right now. And the tech test, I would say, kind of solidified my stance on it. So there you go. Hopefully I thank you for all the people that asked. Many people were telling me, make this video, talk about it. So thank you for that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You guys got to play it, at least some of you, right? So let me know there. Thank you as always for watching. I'll see you all on the next one.